For the grandparent interview assignment, I interviewed my paternal grandfather, Johannes Bernholz. He was born in Stuttgart, Germany on August 24th in 1930. Hans, as everybody calls him, grew up in a small town called Bodenberg, where he lived with his parents, his older brother, Peter, and several cousins. He spent his whole childhood in Germany and lived through World War II, studied, and owned a cardboard manufacturing company. At almost 93, Hans is a very joyful person who always finds a positive in everyone and everything. He enjoys riding his electric bike around the public parks in Bad Meinberg and going to his community pool for water gymnastics. When he was just 10 years old, World War II broke out and it would deeply affect his entire life. When the Nazis took control of the country, he was attending Catholic school and visited church every Sunday. But the new regime forced children to go to Nazi schools. So my grandpa had to walk for 3 hours every day to his new school in an industrial town. He did not mind it since he would walk with a few friends and enjoy the path filled with great views. Hitler was fixated on brainwashing the youth and teaching them the new ideology. My grandpa and all teens his age were forced to meet several times a week and sing Nazi songs and to fight each other and train as future soldiers. My grandpa and his brother did not like this new reality. Despite the long trips to school, my grandpa was very thankful that he lived in a small town since it was not a target for Allied bombardments. My great-grandfather Heinrich was drafted to the war shortly after it started in 1940. Food was always scarce, so Hans raised bunnies as an extra source of meat. His mother became one of the biggest influences in his life. A nurse in training, she exposed her two boys to the arts, literature, and classical music. In 1945, when World War II ended, my great-grandfather was one of the only two survivors to come back to his hometown. He weighed only 45 kilograms or 100 pounds when he returned. The other soldier who returned died 5 days later from overeating. When my grandpa was talking about his family, he reminded me how important it is to always work on keeping relationships alive and strong. On her deathbed, Johanna asked her sons to keep the relationship strong and stay in contact, and to this day, they email each other weekly. Hans told me the first time he saw dead bodies at the age of 14. One night, he was sitting outside with his mother and saw a ball of fire fall from the sky. At first, they thought it was a bomb, so they rushed to the bunker, but soon they realized it was a British Whitley bomber that had crashed in a potato field nearby. Although it was dark, Hans and his friend grabbed their bikes and rushed to the crash site. The crew consisted of 7 armed men from New Zealand fighting on the British side. 6 had died, and the lone survivor was immediately taken as a prisoner of war. Over the next few days, the boys would come back to inspect the wreck and read the manuals and maps left behind. My grandfather has always been an extremely curious person. He believes that it is one of his biggest strengths. After the bomber story, he told me, "Never be afraid of asking questions or researching something you don't know." He encouraged me to be involved, stay curious, and pursue hobbies. Once the war ended, Hans went to Munich to study manufacturing management. Upon graduation, he joined his father in the family's cardboard manufacturing business. When my great-grandfather retired, my grandpa became the CEO. In 1978, my grandpa decided to sell the business and move the whole family to Andorra, a tiny country between France and Spain. Everybody became fluent in Spanish, Catalan, and French. But after 16 years, they returned to Germany. At the end of our interview, I asked Hans if he had any advice for me. Firstly, he said that no one should think they're going to receive anything without a sacrifice. Everything has a price, and we should never assume that we are entitled to something without putting in the required amount of work. He also told me to be generous towards those who are less fortunate than me. To be generous is to be grateful for what one has. He told me that I should not take for granted how fortunate I am to live in a safe environment with 2 loving parents and all the food, shelter, and education I can dream of. He made me realize how lucky I am and encouraged me to take full advantage of all the opportunities available to me.
¿Tenés como un consejo para mí en mi vida?
Nunca piensas que vas a recibir algo sin pagar, ¿sabes? Por todo en tu vida tienes que pagar.